I've lived and worked all over the world. In 2012, we opened Deckman's in Emogor in Valle de Guadalupe on the grounds of an organic farm and vineyard with the goal to be as close to a sustainable 0-kilometer restaurant as possible. And I think I finally found my home. I came here because of the incredible ingredients that come from both the Sea of Cortez and the Pacific Ocean. We have beautiful produce, cheeses, meats, olive oils, all within mere miles from the restaurant. For me, it really is a chef's paradise. After I became a Mexican citizen, it was important for me to travel the country and meet like-minded chefs, ranchers, producers, fishermen, artisans, who shared my commitment to responsible and sustainable farming and fishing. Join me as we explore and deep dive into the magical landscape of Mexico and discover its rich culinary tapestry. Puebla lies 70 miles southeast of Mexico City in central Mexico. It's a lush valley surrounded by mountains near the base of an active volcano. Between the fertile soil from the volcano and the microclimate created by the surrounding mountains, the region is rich in agricultural land, producing a wide range of ingredients. During the 15th century, Puebla was arguably one of the most important cities during the colonial period, as it served as the bridge between the transatlantic and transpacific trade routes from the port of Veracruz and the port of Acapulco, where all ingredients and spices arriving from Europe, Asia, the Middle East, South America, and the Caribbean had to enter through. When the Spanish arrived in Puebla, the area was an uninhabited, vast area of agricultural land with an abundance of natural resources. The Spanish saw this as an opportunity to erect a model city with a grid layout centered around a central plaza, cathedral, and important government buildings. In Mexico, we call this a zócalo. The city was constructed to feature Spanish architecture with vibrant colors and ornate facades. Puebla was started by the Spanish. It wasn't so many of the other cities in Mexico sort of as a show of dominance built the new towns on top of indigenous communities, like in Cholula.
Yes,
right? With
quite literally.
The cathedral built on top of the pyramid. But Puebla wasn't that way.
It wasn't that way. This was a viceroyalty, technically not a colony. It was very simple, identifying pre-existing indigenous settlements, city-states that already had a food system, that already had a society, trade routes. So just subjugating, destroying, and then building. Temples were often destroyed, and then the material repurposed to build churches. So every time you hear about colonial cities in Mexico and, this romantic
How romantic.
images, I know.
And when you understand, it's not romantic at all.
No,
yeah.
It has been totally, romanticized. However, in the case of Puebla, they felt comfortable enough because it was so empty. No indigenous settlements were in this area where the city is, between the port of Veracruz, muy importante, right? The connection with the North Atlantic.
Right.
And the city of Mexico, crossing the volcanoes. So there's no short way to get there, but crossing from Veracruz, this valley, and Mexico City. And every time they came and went, they realized eventually that this space was totally empty.
Okay, sure, that makes sense.
Right? So they okay, let's take Puebla, and also, we have the chance, we don't get anywhere else, to build it from scratch. We don't have to negotiate with pre-existing societies, displace, violence, etc. So how about we take this opportunity to create of Puebla like a template and also like a social model, to make a very 100% almost Spanish city.
Puebla became the trade hub for all goods coming from both ports. When goods arrived, they were bought, sold, and traded for local use and for distribution throughout New Spain. The model city attracted settlers, merchants, and artisans from all over the world and solidified the city as a major economic powerhouse during the colonial period. It also became a culinary melting pot with the arrival of new spices and ingredients like pork, dairy, grains, and vegetables.
Puebla, like you say, was like in this crossroads because we were really, really close to the port of Acapulco, which at some point in history became like this point of contact with the Far East, as far away as Nagasaki.
Right.
I mean, that's crazy. So the transpacific trade routes that connected New Spain entered via Puebla because Puebla secured almost the exclusive trade of all these sumptuary products. They had to come here. And obviously they had to stay here. Many of these commodities were edible. But here's the thing, not only all these things, spices and oils and crops were brought in the return journey, as you just said, there would have been many Mesoamerican crops and ingredients.
That would have then gone...
Think of chiles, right? That's how chiles entered India, entered the Sub-Asian continent, cacao and many other, beans, corn and all that, tomatoes. Of course, Puebla has always been sort of at the intersection of not just ingredients, but going back to the human aspect of people, of ideas, of creativity that not only came, they stayed and left a very rich footprint that is still very visible in our culinary traditions.
Puebla has a rich history of corn cultivation dating back to pre-Columbian times. It was part of the territory of Mesoamerican civilizations. Today, my friend Chef Angel Vasquez and I are headed to Osolco, an agricultural town 30 minutes from the city of Puebla. The agricultural region is known for its production of heirloom heritage corn. Many of the residents of Osolco are descendants of the Nahuatl people and continue to farm their land using traditional farming techniques and cultural practices that have been passed down through generations. We are here to meet Leo Tellez, a young farmer who co-owns Mili Cooperative, a co-op that works with local farmers to produce and sell corn-based products. Leo and many of the young men of Osolco have an all-too-familiar story of leaving their families to migrate to the U.S. in order to earn enough money to support their families.
En nuestra comunidad se ha caracterizado porque se ha dedicado a cultivar maíz desde siempre. Todas nuestras generaciones han cultivado con maíz y es la herencia que nos dejan. Nos dejan un pedacito de tierra, pero lo más importante es la semilla que te van a heredar tu familia. Y esa semilla tú la cuidas, tú la proteges porque la vas a heredar también. Esa enseñanza nos han dejado y siempre la vamos a respetar. Y aparte nos gusta. Es parte de ser como persona, como ser de Osolco. Pero tenemos la desfortuna en que el maíz son de los granos no valorados y tenemos un alto índice de jóvenes, principalmente la fuerza laboral del campo, migrando a los Estados Unidos.
Entonces están saliendo.
Tenemos mucha gente viajando, principalmente todos llegamos a la ciudad de Filadelfia, una ciudad completamente restaurantera. Tengo bastantes amigos, compañeros de escuela, vecinos, que han destacado en la gastronomía y ahora están cocinando para estas cocinas. Pero como todo, decidimos regresar.
Tu vida sigue el ciclo de la siembra.
Así es.
Regresaron a hacer actividad tradicional de agricultura, pero un poquito diferente, ¿no? Porque ya no fue exactamente, si bien continuar la tradición, pero también empezar una forma de negocio.
Sí. Yo llegué hace 10 años, llegué en el 2012. Y
¿Regresaste?
Regresé de Estados Unidos a Osolco. Uno, a sembrar maíz, que es nuestra prioridad, pero lo que sí nos dimos cuenta estando en Estados Unidos es que tenemos gente talentosa cocinando y tenemos una cultura en el maíz. En el maíz no solo se conserva el grano, se conserva la lengua náhuatl, se conserva la gastronomía, se conserva toda una herencia cultural que dices, de aquí soy, es mi legado, es mi cultura.
No estás produciendo comida, estás conservando tu cultura y tu herencia.
Cuando iba en secundaria y en bachiller, alguien de fuera nos preguntaba, oye, ¿de dónde eres? Era penoso para nosotros decir que somos de una comunidad indígena, era penoso para nosotros decir que hablo una lengua y era penoso decir es que yo siembro maíz. Para eso era como, nos da mucha pena decirlo, no lo decías. Pero ahora no, ahora queremos presumir que somos de una comunidad indígena, que cultivamos maíz y tenemos una gastronomía amplia en los maíces y es lo que ahora queremos resaltar, porque así se trabaja en el campo. El campo no trabaja solo, necesitas quien te ayude.
Claro.
Algo importante.
Porque también qué pasa con el vecino, puede pasar a ti, el agua es para todos.
Y se comparten las actividades.
Claro.
Juntos siembran, juntos cosechan.
Nos organizamos, uno por la falta de empleo y segundo, efectivamente, este fenómeno de migración trae cosas buenas, pero también otras cosas no tan buenas. Y parte de eso es la pérdida de nuestra lengua. Ahora está bajando el índice de hablantes en náhuatl, y lo que queremos es, no se tiene que perder, hay que rescatarlo. ¿Y cómo? A través de nuestros maíces. Y una de las formas es, estamos transformando con conocimientos de nuestras abuelas, nuestras madres, nuestros papás. Este conocimiento que nos van heredando es lo que vamos retribuyendo en nuestras recetas, como la forma en que las utilizan nuestras mamás. Tiene un significado todo.
What's happened in Leo's village is not uncommon in many, many villages in Mexico. I spent some time in Guanajuato, and there's whole towns that just gone. And they just, unbelievable. And more people are coming back. After they leave, you understand how really special Mexico is. And every place in the world has its positives and its negatives, every place in the world. But there's a value here that's way bigger than dollars.
Well, yeah, and I think one very powerful thing of Leo's story is the fact that they're using that tradition, that legacy, that way of life. I got goosebumps, when he said that is the seeds what they are given, and is the seeds of the past, but they are the seeds of the future.
Of the future.
They have undergone centuries of oppression, feeling underrepresented, undervalued, being ashamed, for being just who they are. And now that they're reclaiming that heritage and just sharing it and, putting out there so proudly.
Preserving the culture.
For Mexicans, corn is everything. You can have like a whole menu, like drinks, appetizers, main course, and everything with just one ingredient. Corn is one of the most versatile foods that you can ever find. You can prepare hundreds of dishes. In Mexico, we have so many different ways of transforming and cooking corn. One of the most important techniques of the Mexican culture is nixtamalization, which is a technique in which you cook the corn with wood ashes or with calcium, with hydroxyl calcium. And with that, you have many different benefits, nutritional benefits, because it increases the bioavailability of iron, zinc, and vitamin B, and many other important nutritional values. Just tortilla by itself is the most important staple food in Mexico. It provides the main source of proteins, fiber, calcium, energy for the Mexican people. And this is something interesting because corn traveled to South America, Central America, North America. So all the continent is a land of corn. And each of our countries developed different ways of cooking, different ways of processing, different ways of understanding this crop.
We're seeing more and more younger generations caring about the conservation of things that are being lost through commercialization. How important is it that Leo is preserving these corns?
The importance of what Leo and his colleagues are doing here is that they are bringing back all these amazing corns. They are coming back to the lands. They are showing people that they can do a living, that they can cook them, they can transform it into ice creams,
and tortillas and tostadas to the tortilla chips. They have been very creative. They have been very active. And they are now seen by so many different young people learning and watching what they can do in their own villages, in their own towns. Nowadays in Mexico, the average age of the farmers is above 60 years old. It is very important that young people like Leo coming back to the fields and plant and transform this corn.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you, Leo. This is really, really beautiful.
Les voy a enseñar cómo se muele el nixtamal, nixtamalizarlo.
Okay, so she's gonna show you how
Echo
to
poquita agua,
a little bit of water.
echo un poco de nixtamal,
The corn that it's already nixtamalized.
echo otro poquito de agua y empiezo a molerlo.
Yes, you see, really simple. So you got it? Let's see. They've been doing this for years, and like corn, sauces, everything.
This is how you start the ingredients for the mole, right?
Yep. The Aztecs starts with this kind of grinding, you know, like everything with the stones, and 8,000 years that we've been using this like to grind like even like these kind of grains or chiles. So this is like a really important piece for us. ¿Cómo va?
Ya está bien, sí, ya está lista la
¿Sí? Okay.
las tortillas.
Ya, vámonos.
Vámonos.
Pues Francisca, parece que ya estamos listos. Nos muestra cómo hacer uno
Sí,
y después seguimos.
les enseño a hacer unas tortillas.
Okay.
Entonces la porción es exactamente de su mano. Entonces, el chiste es no hacer muy fino en la prensa, ¿no?
Y para que se pueda despegar.
¿Está bien eso?
As iconic and important as corn is an ingredient to Mexico, the same can be said for mole as a national dish. Mole is a dish that has been changed and adapted over thousands of years from pre-Columbian times to the present. It continues to evolve today. Poblanos don't have much of a desire for change. Rather, they embrace the traditions of their ancestors and fiercely promote their longevity. And nothing could represent this more than a Poblano's generational iteration of mole. Mole is complex, it's cultural, and it's personal. We are here today in Angel's restaurant, Orgullo. He and his father opened the restaurant to pay homage to his family's traditions. He makes one of the best moles I have ever tasted. In fact, it even made my wife cry the first time she tried it, as it took her back to her childhood.
We're in Orgullo, one of my favorite restaurants in Mexico, in the world. I love to eat here. One of the signature dishes of Orgullo, and I know that you package it and people can take it with them. You have an online store that sells the mole.
Yes.
The mole poblano, your style, your family style.
Yes.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about the mole tradition of your family first. and then let's talk about how you make it here.
The story comes from these great aunts that they were aunts from my great-grandmother. They used to be cookers at the Convento Santa Rosa. They were just in and out, and they just got a bunch of recipes that we cooking here. They are from this cookbook, the family cookbook.
So your aunts cooked in the Santa Rosa convent.
They were helpers to the nuns, and they used to work in there doing a lot of stuff. But then most of the time they were in the kitchen, working and cleaning and helping. So that recipe, the recipe that we have, comes from that place. People, they asked to another aunt, like a younger aunt, to do the mole for them. And for the wedding and for the first communion and for everything. I told my dad, hey, she's the only one that has been doing it since tradition. We need to put that on paper, put it in grams, because everything is like one handful and whatever. So we measured the mole like I don't know, maybe like 10 times until we got it all together. And now we have a really great mole. What I want is that people eat my mole the same way that my great-grandmother ate it, and I want to keep this tradition.
Incredible.
So this is some of the ingredients. We have cinnamon, we have cloves, coriander seeds, and then we have almonds, and then sesame seeds.
So all these things would come from Asia and Europe.
And then we have lard or pork and then we have the chiles that we used to have in here. So this is like the marriage of this mestizaje. And everything, when we fry, cook, and do a bunch of stuff, because it's like a very large process, and then grind, we came to this.
So you get to...
Yes. So we don't add onions, we don't add tomatoes, we don't add...
So this is the base, and then you do the sofrito.
And then fry it a little bit, and then put chicken stock, and that's it. The way that we eat right now, la cocina poblana, it's right after the Spanish. We didn't have cheese, we didn't have cows, we didn't have a bunch of stuff that we use in here.
That all came with the Spanish.
Food from Puebla, we use cream, we use cheese, we use a lot of spices. No? Like every single mole, pipián, mole, adobo, everything has a hint of spices. So it's, I don't know, that's the way that we do it here.
We both have something in common. We both work with or for.
We work for
our wife. Do you like working with your wife?
I like to work for my wife.
Work for your wife. Isn't it easier when you just let her make the decisions?
I feel it that way.
Yeah.
It is.
Come on.
You guys make a great team.
Yeah, I thank you.
You really do. And,
thank you. It's like a power.
It's a great pleasure now work with my dad. Gina is taking care of the wine. Food has bring us all together and
it's a connection,
talking about food, working about food, and everything the same thing on mind, just like to show the best that we can do to preserve and to guests can eat it. You know?
It's beautiful.
Right, so guasontle, it's this plant. What we do is we blanch it. You have to put a lot of salt, and then we have, for do the capeado.
Yeah, let's do it.
Put it in the capeado.
Up to the edges, right?
Yes. All right. And another different and interesting thing to know about the guasontle is how to eat it. So you can kind of like grab it and then hold it and then kind of like dig it kind of like a fish. So you need to keep
like the French eat white asparagus.
Yes, same way.
Yep. It's a big vegetarian corn dog.
Yes.
You were a big influence on Angel growing up. One of the reasons why you started cooking.
He likes to eat, but he likes to cook more than eat, I guess. He loves to cook for us. So I get the influence of being cooking with him. His dad used to have a place in the market, like he used to sell potatoes.
Para ti, eso es
la sangre de la familia, lo que transmitimos acá, lo que comíamos en la familia.
Una preservación de la historia, no solamente de su familia, pero también de Puebla.
Claro, es lo más importante.
I want that my daughter eat the same way that my grandmother used to eat. Then
she need to pass it away. Like she need to learn how to do it,
Pass it on.
and do it to their kids.
She's 11 and the other is 5. They have to have it. They have to know. That's our job.
There's so many little jobs and so many important jobs that you don't want to give to someone else that you can only trust with your family.
That's true.
And so it's a really beautiful place.
The maguey, also known as agave, is an incredible plant that has played a significant role in Mesoamerican civilizations. The long, spiky leaves are used for making ropes, textiles, and traditional crafts. The core of the plant contains a dense fibrous structure known as the piña. The sap, or aguamiel, is extracted from the piña to make fermented alcoholic beverages.
Soy tachiquero por herencia. Mi abuelo me enseñó, el abuelo de mi abuelo le enseñó y así venimos. Este es un maguey de altura y por lo tanto es pulque o aguamiel de altura. Tiene la edad de 12 años más o menos y en ese momento hay que partirlo.
Ok.
Mi abuelo decía que una vez hiriendo al maguey, dejarlo 3 días para que sane un poquito o cicatrice un poquito la herida y después de ahí ya venir raspándolo.
¿Y esta espera de 3 días se deja que se produzca más tiempo después?
No, simplemente es como el respetar todo lo que está vivo y el maguey está vivo.
Entiendo.
Entonces dejar que cicatrice un poquito la herida.
Ok.
De ahí venimos extrayendo el aguamiel, que es una bebida sagrada. Viene siendo sagrada desde nuestros ancestros, los aztecas. Es un guerrero para los aztecas, entonces es un sacrificio que nosotros hacemos al quitarle el corazón.
Ok.
Con esto se le quita el corazón al guerrero, pero antes que hacer eso debemos de pedirle permiso y pedirle de cierta forma favor para que produzca buen aguamiel. Nosotros ahora es niño, joven y adulto. Para los aztecas no había eso. Solamente era niño y pasaba a ser adulto. Naciendo el maguey, cumplía 12, 15 años y ahí en ese momento se manda a la guerra o se hace el sacrificio.
Entiendo.
De ahí viene la bebida sagrada.
Cuando se dice la palabra gimador, se puede decir como que eres una parte de la tierra, del mundo. ¿Por qué? Porque tú trabajas con las cosas de las plantas que nacen de la tierra. Sí, el agave es muy noble. Es una planta muy noble, pero sí es muy... que hay que cuidarla. Y la planta, para mí es un mucho respeto, porque la planta es mucho más fuerte que un ser humano.
De generación por generación, también hay un paseo de energías, de conocimiento, que también se ayuda a que el agave se crezca, ¿no?
Ah, no, es que el agave es como un bebé, que hay que cuidarlo desde que nace. Bueno, yo en mi casa soy la 4ª generación.
Wow, ok.
De gimadores, mi bisabuelo, mi abuelo, mi papá, ahora yo. Y ya mis hijos también ya, están en la 5ª generación. Ellos ya saben gimar, más que ya ellos ya les di estudio también.
Hay gente que viene y no tiene toque, pero estás aprendiendo después tanto y piensas 5ª generación, cuánta experiencia están en las manos de tus hijos de trabajar de campo. Y pues eso es el conocimiento necesario para producir el tequila mejor del mundo, ¿no?
No, sí, tiene que ser.
Pulque is a fermented alcoholic drink made from the agave plant that has a rich history in Mexico, dating back to pre-Columbian times. Pulque was the precursor to tequila before the distillation process was brought to Mexico by the Spaniards. When the Spanish arrived in Mexico in the 16th century, they began experimenting with the agave plant, attempting to distill it into a more potent alcoholic beverage. The process of distillation was a technology brought to Mexico by the Spanish colonizers. Over time, specific regions within Mexico, such as the town of Tequila in Jalisco, became known for the quality of their distilled agave spirits. Tequila is a distinct type of mezcal, evolved in these regions due to unique variations in production methods and the agave species used, primarily the agave tequilana, also known as blue agave. In the 19th century, production techniques were refined, and tequila started to be produced in larger quantities. The Cuervo family played a significant role in the commercialization and popularization of tequila, obtaining the first license to produce it commercially in 1795. The Cuervo family has been rooted in the tequila tradition for 250 years and was also the first to release extra añejo to the public. Today, my wife Paulina and I are headed to La Rojeña, the oldest distillery in the Americas, where Reserva de la Familia is made and 100% handcrafted by skilled and passionate artisans. I'm here to learn about their ultra-premium collection of artisanal small-batch tequilas that are the crown jewel of the Cuervo family.
Bienvenidos a Rojeña, la destilería más antigua de la industria tequilera.
All right, yeah, you can feel the history here, Alex.
Yeah.
How long have you been here?
Me?
You.
30 years.
30, wow.
30 years. But this has been since 1795.
1795, before the revolution.
Exactly.
So this is still Spanish control.
Yeah, so we had to ask for permission to the King of Spain for distillation of the tequila.
Okay. So, Alex, where are we now? This looks like a whole lot of agave piñas.
So this is the first process. In the company, we have a big agricultural team, and they are responsible for from the planting to the harvesting of the agave, and they have experts managing the soils, any type of plaga. So if it wasn't for the agave growers and the agave itself, I mean, there would be no industry.
Well, and that's where the quality coming from the field is the quality that you have in the glass.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. And every step of the process is really important.
Ingrediente, ingrediente, ingrediente.
Right there. Yeah. Once you smell cooked agave, you will enjoy tequila differently. Okay? Just pull it and then...
Oh, wow. All right, we can go home now. Wow. So this is the first time in my life that I've been with two maestro tequileros, which is it doesn't happen every day. How often is each barrel tested along the process of making before it gets to the bottle?
The tequila is inside the barrels for 3 years.
3, okay.
Then once they accomplish the 3 years, the maestro tequilero must be some blends with another the tequila is 5 years, 10 years old.
Okay.
In the way that the most aged, this tequila is a little poor in the process of blend. Okay.
Okay.
So this is very important because we want to have the exact profile year by year.
Every barrel's different.
Every barrel's different.
Every barrel's different. And every cosecha, every harvest is different.
Yes,
and
must be there.
Depending on the time of the year, and the agave, it's a plant. It's constantly changing.
Yeah, and to produce a barrel is very handcrafted.
Sure.
As well. So the charring and the toasting is really, it's manual. It's a manual operation as well. So there's always variances.
Sure.
Which is, I think, what's nice about small batch products.
Absolutely. Still family owned, Jose Cuervo. How many generations are we looking at right now?
11 generations.
11. Obviously, Jose Cuervo has become a very, very big company. However, when you look at all these industrial processes up in the plant, Reserva de la Familia, handmade, small batch, from the hand-blown glass for the bottle, to the labels, to the waxing. How important is that?
It's artisanal because all the process is very, very carefully. the age of the agaves must be 7 years.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, in order to agave take all the ingredients from the earth to the soil, in order to have that ingredients in it.
How important is passion for you in something as amazing as this tequila? I mean, for me, this has got to be, it's not a job, it's your life.
Yeah, in my opinion, passion it's key. No, because personally, I feel so fortunate being Mexican and work for this, for this brand. I think I'm being an appellation of origin, tequila. So you need to love what you do. I mean, with discipline and intensity and with your heart.
Sure.
Because all we're doing is producing, experience for the world. We're showing the world what Mexico and tequila could do. And there's a lot of work and effort from a lot of people in the distillery, from planting to harvesting to distilling, maturing. So we're representing a lot of people that are putting their best effort and waking every morning to do their best. So I think that's what passion is all about.
When did wheat come, and what was the process of making wheat sort of part of the Puebla Mexican diet?
You might think it's been forever, judging by how much we love bread and how many bakers we have. But actually, it really only came with the Spanish colonization. And it was really important for Spaniards to actually start sort of replicating their own food system.
Okay.
And just like for us, corn was fundamental to our food system, but also to our culinary traditions, wheat had all these meanings, cultural meanings, spiritual meanings, attached to it. So it was for them very, very important to introduce it here in New Spain and to adapt it. So obviously they tried with different grains, different densities that they really wanted to introduce. But because it needs a certain altitude, humidity and all that, it was really hard for them to introduce it. They first tried in the Caribbean and, Veracruz.
Humidity, that doesn't work.
You've been there, it just didn't work. But here in Puebla, we're high, it's cool.
Yeah,
we have
low humidity.
Yes, a very rich soil. So, it just really, really adapted very quickly. Now, this was good for one part of the society and really bad news for another part of the society. So obviously Spaniards were just very happy that finally they were growing their wheat and being able to eat bread, right? Because it was a staple of their diet.
Sure.
But obviously you need to make room if you're going to grow that, and being this such a fertile place, that means displacing native indigenous crops. So the milpa system, corn or even amaranth or cactus, nopales, many of these crops had to be displaced. So indigenous people were really, really upset about this. You can understand. Also, they knew nothing about wheat. Why would they?
Sure.
So they were not familiar with the technology, with the cycle, how to harvest. So
I can imagine an effect in their
absolutely
in their persons as well, because it's an ingredient that
wheat intolerances are not a new thing. So actually many indigenous people were just absolutely unable to digest, just as, guess this, many Spanish people were unable to digest corn. So it worked both ways.
Okay.
Yes, they were like, oh my God, we really need our bread because we can't eat tortillas. They're delicious, but we can't digest it, some of them. So it was the same. And also for other products that were introduced. So say when dairy cattle was introduced, many indigenous people just couldn't tolerate lactose.
Sure.
And to this day, that still remains. So it worked both ways. But really, Puebla became really was on the spot and became like the granary and the bread basket of New Spain, because it started producing, if you're producing wheat, well, what's next? Well, you need to mill it, right? So we need to build a lot of mills. You are milling where we need bakeries. New spread, and everyone wanted some bread. And Puebla has bread, come on, let's start producing a lot.
One of the most famous and respected restaurants in Puebla is El Moral de los Poblanos. owned by Luis Javier Q, featuring seasonal and local ingredients and traditional poblano dishes. He is a fierce advocate of sourcing local and seasonal ingredients that celebrate Puebla's heritage. Good morning, brother. Man, what a pleasure to be back here. It's been a while since I've been seated with you in a table at your restaurant.
It's always a pleasure to have you here and to share what we have here in Puebla, all the ingredients, history, traditions, and dishes that Puebla is famous for.
One of the things that I really like about visiting Puebla, it's one of my favorite places to visit in Mexico. People who live here and who are from here are so proud of their city. It's one of the cleanest cities I've ever seen in Mexico. People are smiling. They want to talk about their city. They want to talk about the history. They know about the history. What is it about Puebla that just makes people love to be here? This is a very special place.
Yeah, as you say, we are proud of what we have here. We have a lot of dishes that make us proud. In the case of what we do at the restaurant, we have different seasons, and it's all about gathering with family and friends that makes these moments special for the Poblanos. We have the tradition of the chile en nogada, that's a seasonal dish that it gathered the family. So that's going back to the being proud of. It's like a moment that is very comfortable for the Poblano to share. Now, you are raised with this tradition in your family, and then you want to show it to your friends.
And you want to share it.
You want to share it with people that come from other places. And that's what I think the Poblanos are very proud of, what we have here and what we have in different dishes.
So with the chilies, when we were here for the festival, it was interesting for me. I was able to do a side-by-side taste test of a chili poblano grown commercially.
Okay.
And then one of the chilies, the traditionally grown from the mountain. And even from just the size, the shape, everything was different.
The
flavor is just totally different. And I know that it's happening a lot in Mexico all over the place. Traditional dishes are being diluted through commercialization. And I know that the chili en nogada dish is one of the same thing, where it was traditional and special because those ingredients were only available at that time. The chili was grown a certain way, and now those ingredients are available now all year round.
You can make chili en nogada
any time of the year. In addition to the iconic dishes of Puebla, like chalupas, semitas, mole poblano, and chili nogado, there's another beloved dish called tacos árabes, which is seeped in history and happens to be one of my favorite things to eat when I visit. Angel is taking Rocio and I to his favorite spot called El Sultán in the heart of the city.
Angel, how are you, my friend? Bien, ¿y tú?
Carlos, Drew.
Carlos, nice to meet you.
Gusto.
Please come in the Sultan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, all right, guys, if you don't mind, I already asked for some tacos. I hope you don't mind, Carlos.
No, please.
Al pastor, árabe, tortas, jocoque, and this beautiful sauce that has to go on the tacos. How long have you had the taco shop?
33 years. This is an original recipe from Lebanon for many, many years ago, more than 100 years ago.
So the Puebla is obviously a crossroads of a lot of different things.
That's right.
Tell me a little bit about the history. I know that there was a couple of different immigrations of Arabs, not just one. When did tacos árabes start? And sort of how has that influenced some other things in Mexico?
Okay. Well, you maybe know more than I do.
There have been many waves of Arab immigrants. It's a whole big Arab diaspora, actually, that came from the Arab world. And when I say the Arab world, guys, you won't let me lie, that some came from Lebanon, indeed, but some came from, Egypt, Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, like really the whole Arab world. And it just takes us to the late 1800s with the Ottoman Wars, pulling everybody out. So back then, Mexico had this very friendly policy of welcoming refugees. And so it's in this context that our government just opened their arms, and we Mexicans were like, you're having a hard time, sure thing, we can squeeze you in. So they came here really with nothing.
Puebla is one of the biggest cities in Mexico, the fourth largest city, and has a big Lebanese influential pattern.
Which of the sauces do you recommend?
Okay, this one is for the Agave.
Okay.
And either this or this are for the pastor.
Tacos al pastor, always with the green sauce.
Yes.
That has a touch of habanero.
Right, Mara? And that's it. And then Agave with this sauce, a little bit of pulque, and you have the bread that you always like.
You might notice something about your taco Agave, and it has this layer of smokiness.
Sure.
That really comes through, and the lovely flavors in the marinade. So this is the thing. This is peasant food. This is farmers' food. When these Arab people came here, they really came with nothing, and they had to start from scratch. So from selling haberdashery door to door and doing odd jobs, joining the textile industry, but some realized Poblanos really like their food.
That's
so
right.
how about we introduce our own culinary traditions and see how it goes?
At what point did the taco Agave change from lamb to pork?
Well, lamb is not very usual to have it in Mexico.
Okay.
And pork, of course, is much easier to get it.
And also in Puebla says that el poblano come cerdo, puerco, cochino y marrano.
Yeah, that means pork everywhere. So it was really that main change that they did to these actual reels. So it is this moment when the shawarma comes to Mexico here in Puebla, because we're so close to the port of Veracruz where they came from, right? So they entered the country via the port of Veracruz. That's why many settled in that region in southeast Veracruz. Los went to Mexico City, but because Puebla is in the middle, they decided to stay here. And you can't blame them, lovely weather, beautiful city, beautiful people. So when they started introducing these, it would have been a kebab. But honestly, if you're in Mexico, if you put a bread that looks like a tortilla with some food inside and rolling like a taco, Arab taco, and there you go. Very difficult. And the salsa is really what's it's chipotle. So without telling us your secrets, can you tell us what your friend told you about this salsa?
Oh, yes, of course. It has a special combination of, it has olive oil, of course, chipotle, which is chili and salt, pepper, and a secret ingredient.
But this salsa, you won't find it in the Arab world. So this was the only kind of adaptation that they allowed themselves.
That's right.
Sort of like a token.
That's right.
Okay, you like our food. We know you like your salsa.
If tacos Agave started, at what point did tacos al pastor?
After a few generations, these descendants of Arabs growing up being familiar with the flavors like the tortilla, spices, the textures, they understood more about Mexican food. So they started experimenting with different ingredients, these marinades.
Was it born here in Puebla?
It was born here in Puebla out of the creativity of these people who really understood and made this adaptation.
What do you like best?
The taco Agave.
Taco Agave?
Yeah.
Taco Agave is the most popular one?
Yeah, I want another one.
Oh, how worse?
Another iconic treasure of Puebla is Talavera pottery. It was granted a denomination of origin by the Mexican government in 1998 for its intricate, exquisitely designed pottery and artisanal craftsmanship that makes each piece a true work of art.
It was a lot, man. We got next to some really, really special people that are doing some really incredible things. The young guys bringing back heritage corn and celebrating what's been celebrated in their families for siglos, for centuries. And one of the things that really impacted me was that we've lost so much information, we've lost so much heritage.
in the little that's still being preserved, it made me think about how much is not going to be preserved, how much is not going to carry on. And, you know, the corn is part of it, but there's so much from language to even just family. There's a lot to learn.
What I'm trying to do our best as a team here at the restaurant, trying to being proud of the products, the real ingredients that gave the flavors that our grandmothers and our mother.
Food transmits like emotion. So I think when my grandmother died, he died in my dad's arms. He remembers his mom cooking. So that's why I think he cooks, like, because every time that he's cooking, he remembers his mother. Every time he's doing a chile en nogada, he's always thinking, and when he take the fork and put it in his mouth, and he's like happy, like what I think is, okay, now he is remember.
He hits that spot.
Yes,
no?
yeah.
That's very strong.
Yeah, like he is remember what he was eating when he was a child. I think that the recipe that we're having, we're trying always to keep it just because that family heritage. So I know I can do like different stuff and innovate and put a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I like it.
It's a really nice situation because you have Orgullo where you can stay very traditional and not move away from what those recipes from the Tias that you were telling me about, that's the line you're following. But then you have intro where you can go wherever you want, right? So you have that outlet. You can respect tradition and still be innovative. Is it not as important to communicate the idea of great-grandmother's mole as opposed to replicated it? You're transmitting tradition and heritage and history and family by even attempting to recreate it and then serve it, you know, basically, okay, I'm open to the world, and here, this is my grandmother's mole in a restaurant. I think that's noble enough to continue the tradition.
We have to share this, to be proud of it, and to share with all of them, and to shout it to the world.
Now that we have the world's attention on us, like literally the spotlight, no? How are we going to tell that? How are we going to tell that story? How are we going to tell what you're doing in a way that incites and invites people, no? To come and discover that.
But tradition and heritage is very difficult to communicate to someone who isn't in it or living around it. So as Mexican food continues to leave the borders and go to other places, everybody understands if you talk about an ingredient. It's not easy to communicate the love of your grandmother and how she stood over the clay pots, and this is what her cocina humo looked like, and that's really tough to communicate to somebody who hasn't seen that or done that. But to celebrate an ingredient as it moves forward, that's something that everybody can understand. And then that's something that can travel. Heritage corn, vanilla from Veracruz. Moving forward, Mexican food may become just kind of anything made with Mexican ingredients.
We're turning it around, right? Because if we sort of trace back how Mesoamerican crops built national cuisines.
What is our responsibility? We have a soapbox. We have a platform to communicate. We have the ability to really make things happen.
To change the narrative.
To change the narrative.
With this new ecosystem we are creating by listening the critical voices, you using, that spot you have to say, yes, we can all do more. We can all support each other. You don't have to be just the producer. I don't be just the person that transforms that. How about we protect it? How about we change it? How about we export it under a different way and conditions?
Sustainability and food preservation is not something you need to talk about. It's something you need to eat. And the only way that you could communicate food stability, food justice, food sustainability is by propagating it and consuming it. There's no point in having an heirloom corn sitting on a bookshelf going, this is heirloom corn. We need to grow it. We need to have it in as many people's mouths as possible, and we need to show that it's there and it's part of the marketplace. You know, sometimes when we get the abilities to go and be next to these really incredible people doing incredible things, I don't always feel like I'm worthy. I don't always feel like, hey, you know, who am I to be trying to get next to these people and tell their story and understand it? Am I doing things for the right reason? Are my questions the right questions? This was a really, really great time for me here in Puebla. It's an amazing place.